We've got some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, where the Big Ten just announced its new media rights deal. 7 years with CBS, Fox, and NBC that begins in 2023. The multi-platform agreement believed to be the largest in the history of college athletics, with industry sources putting the approximate value of the deal record at $1.2 billion annually. As it lays out, Fox going to get that featured big noon game, then CBS following at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and then NBC wrapping up each week with what they're calling a Big Ten Saturday night event in primetime. As you digest some of the notes here in terms of the contract details, just a friendly reminder that CBS still has the SEC for one more season, and then we'll broadcast 7 games of the Big Ten during that 23-year window. Then after that, that will expand. CBS also getting the Big Ten championship game in 24 and 28. All of those CBS broadcasts will be streamed on Paramount+. All right, time to bring in our Dennis Dodd here. And Dennis, there's a lot to unpack, but first and foremost, what more can you tell us about how this deal got done?
Well, it was a long time coming, Tommy, and industry sources were surprised that actually these 3 networks are sharing the championship game over the 7 years of the deal. You mentioned that CBS is going to get it twice. Fox will get it 4 times. And I think the unique part of this deal is that you just mentioned it. You have one conference on all 3 main windows, noon Eastern, 3:30 Eastern, which is that CBS window that they developed over the years, and then prime time, whether that's 7:30, or 8 o'clock on NBC. And it kind of brings everybody under the same roof, at least those top 2 conferences at the top. The SEC, we'll learn about their deal pretty soon, but they're going to make about the same money. If you break it down, Big Ten teams will be making about $75 million each just on this deal. If you assume NCAA tournament revenue and bowl revenue, which is different from school to school, I think it's safe to say now that those schools will be making $80 million each annually. And then what are the implications of that? How far have the SEC and the Big Ten pulled away? But I think for now, it's the viewer that's really benefiting here. In 2023, CBS will begin the Big Ten telecast on broadcast television in the 3:30 window with 7 games, but they'll also have the full complement of 15 SEC games in the last year of that deal. So what does that mean for the viewer? That means Big Ten games in week 1 and week 2, Big Ten game on Black Friday after Thanksgiving, and there will be some doubleheaders involving the Big Ten and SEC on CBS broadcast. Another industry source thing that developed here, that you now have the 3 broadcast networks, that's over the air, not cable, involved in these games in one league. And that is almost unprecedented, at least in this day and age. So Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, not a rookie anymore. He's 2.5 years in, but deserves a lot of credit for doing this deal for his conference, and I think for the consumer as well.
Yeah, 2023, big year for CBS, a lot of crossover, as you mentioned. Last year, the SEC deal, the introduction of the Big Ten deal, keeping it with Kevin Warren, because you were at Big Ten Media Days out in Indy not too long ago, Dennis. Had anything changed? Was it sort of just almost a fait accompli that this was going to get done, or did something change from then until now?
Well, it was delayed, Tommy, because, the UCLA USC thing. He had told me in early May, Kevin Warren, that he thought the deal might get done around, Memorial Day at the end of May. Well, that didn't happen because on June 30th, word leaked, and then officially it happened on July 1st that USC and UCLA were going to join the league in 2024. So at that point, when I talked to him, you have to assume that they knew that that was a possibility, USC and UCLA, and we should mention that. Obviously, that's a key part to this. This adds value to the deal. It does not get done in the valuation it is. I mentioned $1.2 billion, unless you've got those LA markets, USC and UCLA. And Sean McManus, the chairman of CBS Sports, talked about it yesterday when I talked to him for my story. He said, think about that. Michigan, USC, UCLA, Ohio State, USC, and Penn State. I mean, just think of the games that are going to be out there in the inventory for the viewer. Now, how the Big Ten decides how it's going to play these games in terms of divisions or how they're going to determine a champion is a little bit different. I think all the conferences, Tommy, are going to go to this one division now because it's going to be easier for access to a playoff, again, that we don't know what exactly it's going to look like. but I think you're going to see a 16-team, one division Big Ten where the top two teams will play for the championship every year.
Certainly looks like we're headed toward the super conferences, if not already, with the Big Ten and the SEC, Dennis. And before I let you go, and of course you have this right up here on CBSSports.com detailing everything in its entirety, especially on the football side. We know football is king. We know with the high tide, rising ship, all boats float. What about basketball? What does the Big Ten get from a basketball perspective in this media rights deal?
Unprecedented exposure for basketball and Olympic sports from the Big Ten angle. As far as CBS goes, they will retain the semifinals to the Big Ten basketball tournament through the 7 years of this deal and the championship game. So that's become kind of a tradition every March on CBS. So they will be on CBS over-the-air television.
All right. The Big Ten gearing up. And again, from a football perspective, they'll have 5 linear networks putting out their product, which includes CBS starting in 2023. Dennis, certainly appreciate it. Again, check out his full write-up on CBSSports.com detailing the new 7-year deal with the Big Ten and its different levels of networks. A couple things here when we talk about the Cover 3, this is what we talked about. Kevin Warren said about this, quote, the Big Ten will be a dominant force from a media standpoint on Saturday. And then CBS Sports Chairman Sean McManus adding to this, saying unprecedented opportunity for Big Ten football.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.